Welcome everybody once again to the Turning Point tutorial. Remember, in our last class we have dealt with various parts of the structure of the eye, that's the mammalian eye. And we have seen the clear diagram, the full diagram with the longitudinal section of the mammalian eye. Just want to remind you a little, just once again, concerning the various parts of the mammalian eye, and then we'll proceed from the place we stopped before. Remember that the mammalian eye has eye wall, and the eye wall has three layers. The first layer is the sclerotic layer, we call it the sclera, and we have said that before. We have heard the explanation in that aspect before. Then the other aspect is the choroid layer, the middle layer of the eye wall, and that is called the choroid layer. Choroid layer. The choroid layer, being the middle part, we have heard the function before. We have paid attention to the function in the former class. Right here, the last layer, which is the inner layer of the mammalian eye wall, is the retina. And that is the innermost part of the eye wall, retina, the retina. Then on the surface of the retina, there is a depression. That depression is called the fovea centralis, or the yellow spot, which we know before. We have listed that before. And it's called the fovea centralis, or the yellow spot. Fovea centralis, or the yellow spot. Right here we have the blind spot. The blind spot. Blind spot. Then here we talk about the optic nerve that leads to the optic lobe of the brain. The optic nerve that connects straight to the optic lobe of the brain, where the impulses are being interpreted. Well, now between this, before we know, we have learned before that between the lens and as well as the retina, we know quite well that there is a space, a big opening, and that space is being filled by a liquid called vitreous humor. The vitreous humor, and we quite know that the vitreous humor is a jelly-like liquid. Vitreous humor, the jelly-like liquid fills up that space. Then between the lens and the cornea, because you know that the cornea is an extension of the sclerotic layer at the front, which becomes transparent. And between the cornea and the lens of the eye, there's a space, and that space is being filled up by a liquid, jelly-like liquid called the aqueous humor. The aqueous humor is also transparent, jelly-like liquid, transparent. It allows light rays to pass through it, the aqueous humor, and it also refracts light rays. Aqueous humor. The other one again to talk about, we have discussed before, is the lens of the eye, and the lens of the eye is being held by two muscles. We can call them muscle. I'll call them the suspensory ligament. Suspensory ligament. The suspensory ligament are attached to the ciliary muscle of the eye wall. Remember, when you consider the suspensory ligament, you find out that the suspensory ligament is being attached to the ciliary muscle. The ciliary muscle and the iris are the two extensions from the choroid layer. So let's just remember, we have said something about that before. The suspensory ligament connecting to the ciliary muscle. This is ciliary muscle. Let's not forget that ciliary muscle. Then the next part is the iris, part of the choroid layer. Yes, and we have the iris. Also between the iris is the pupil of the eye. Then the eyelid, the tear gland is here. The tear gland. Then we talk about that part, which is the eyelash. The eyelash is here. Then the conjunctiva. Then we'll talk about the cornea. We all this we've discussed before. We said now we want to consider some parts that are associated to the mammalian eye. The parts of the mammalian eye, the associated parts. Those parts that are associated to the mammalian eye are the tear gland. The tear gland is associated to it. Then the eyelid is also associated to it. Is the eyelid is the part that is associated to the mammalian eye. The eyelid, the tear gland, the eyelash. Then we also have the eye sockets. All these parts are associated. Then there's another again called the eye muscle. The eye muscle, we can call this one. Then you can see this is eye muscle. And what we should know about the eye muscle? The eye muscle, and there are about 6 strong eye muscles connecting the eyeball to the eye socket. The eye muscle help to hold the eyeball in position, rotating it from one direction to another direction. Then in the aspect of the tear gland, it constantly supplies tears, and the tears of the eye contain antibacterial enzyme, which also help to wipe out destroy or kill any bacteria found in the eye. And what is the function of the eyelid? The eyelid helps to drain tears from the tear gland and spread it on the eye, on the cornea, on the surface of the eye. Then in so doing, it helps to wipe out any dirty thing or any bacteria around on the surface of the eye. Then the eyelid also helps to protect the eye when one is trying to blink the eye, or when the person is asleep. Then the other aspect is the eyelash. The eyelash also helps to shield the eye from excessive light rays. Then the other aspect is the part that has to do with the eye socket. The eye socket helps to protect the eye against serious injury or mechanical injury. Then there are other aspects to consider in this study of the eye or the mammalian eye. And what those aspects are, the one that has to do with the accommodation of the eye. One of them is the accommodation of the eye. The accommodation of the eye is the ability of the eye to focus on both far and near objects. Ability of the eye to focus on both far and near objects. And this ability of the eye to focus on both far and near objects is brought about by the alteration of the length of the lens. The length of the lens is, if the length of the lens is being altered, then it will be able to carry out the work of accommodation. And then you can see here that when you consider the issue of the alteration of the length of the lens, you will know quite well that it is the work of the ciliary muscle that does that. The work of the ciliary muscle that is responsible in the work of altering the length of the lens. When the ciliary muscle relaxes, then the length of the lens is being stretched. The lens becomes so long and thin and flattened, and in that very case, it helps the eye to focus on what is far away, very, very far. But when the ciliary muscle relaxes, contracts, as it comes together, the eyeball, the lens of the eye becomes short and round, and in that very case, it makes the eye able to focus on those things that are very near. Now let's come to the aspect of the eye defect, because there are some aspects to consider here when it comes to the eye defects of the eye, or the eye problems, the eye defects. The eye defects. The eye defects that are common when you come from the stage of the GSS, from those days when you're in GSS section, you consider the eye defect. Those common ones are the myopia and the hypermetropia. Now we want to see several eye defects. One of them is the short-sightedness. The short-sightedness is also known as myopia. And the long-sightedness is also known as hypermetropia. hypermetropia. The other one is astigmatism. And the other one to look into is presbyopia. The other one to consider, there are other ones to look into now. Those ones, as an addition, we talk about that of color blindness. Color blindness is one of the aspects to consider. The other one is night blindness. Then we can also talk about, let's just put this one as an addition, river blindness. The river blindness, protarsiasis, that is the second name for it, river blindness. The other ones like the cataracts, and then the glaucoma and so on and so forth. But we consider the major one that we need to look into: short-sightedness as myopia, long-sightedness as hypermetropia, astigmatism, presbyopia, the color blindness, night blindness, river blindness, cataract, the other one like the glaucoma, and so on and so forth. Let's look at some of them very quickly and get some of the things we need to know about them. The first one to consider here is the short-sightedness. The short-sightedness, or we can call it the myopia. Short-sightedness or the myopia. In the aspect of the short-sightedness, let me take it down for you that you can see. Now, to understand the short-sightedness or the myopia, let's also look at the diagram at the board here to illustrate it better in a better way. Now let's come back to the statement once again, myopia or the short-sightedness. The question is, what is short-sightedness or myopia? Myopia or short-sightedness is also defined as an eye defect in which a person is not able to see what is very, very far away from him or her, but only what is very near, only what is very close by. The person is not able to see far objects, but only what is very close. And what's the reason? What's the cause? This is because the eyeball is too long. The eyeball is too long, and the distance between the lens and the retina is too long. And because the eyeball is too long, or maybe even if the eyeball is not too long, it could be that the lens is too curved. Sorry, the eyeball is too thin, not the eyeball is too lens, or the eyeball is too long, or the lens is too thin. So that's a mistake. The eyeball is too long, or the lens is too thin. And because the eyeball is too long, or the lens is too thin, therefore the image will not appear on the retina, but it will appear in front of the retina. The eyeball is too long, making the image to appear in front of the retina instead of appearing on the retina. Or maybe the lens is too thin, and therefore the image cannot or is not able to get to the retina, but it will appear in front of the retina. And what is now the correction to this very problem? The correction in the very case to make is a use of something, a lens that will help to push the image straight to the retina. and that lens is known as a concave lens or biconcave lens. Concave lens is also called converging lens, concave lens or converging lens. Converging lens or we can call it a concave lens. And this lens, when you place it in front of the eyeball, it will help to push the image straight to the retina. That's the correction. Then the other one is the hypermetropia. Hypermetropia. The hypermetropia is also known as the long sight or long-sightedness. This is an eye defect in which a person is not able to see what is near but only what is far away. A person is not able to see what is near but only what is far away. And what's the cause? This is because the eyeball is too short or the lens is too curved, and this makes the image to appear behind the retina instead of appearing on the retina, because the eyeball is too short or the lens is too curved, and this pushes the image and makes it to appear behind the retina instead of appearing on the retina. Let us look at the diagram below to illustrate this very problem. Let's consider it very well, the very case. There's the lens, and then here we have this, let's say this is the image, and this is the image, and this one being the image, so the object is the object, and there's the image, This is the object, there's the image. And the image, the ray of light coming from the image gets straight to the lens, and the lens pushes it forward, it appears behind the retina. That's the image behind the retina. Now this is illustration here, a clear illustration. When you look at it very well, the object here, the image behind the retina. I say once again, the hypermetropia is an eye defect in which a person is not able to see what is near but only what is far away. This is because the eyeball is too short or the lens is too curved, and so this makes the image to appear behind the retina. Now let's look at these two aspects. They're like there's just this form of an opposite issue. When you consider the case of myopia, short sight, the image is too long. The eyeball is too long, and the image appears at the front of the retina. Then, in the case of long sight, the eyeball is too short, and the image appears behind the retina. Behind the retina, and that's how we can differentiate two of them. Then the next one is astigmatism. This is an eye defect in which a person is not able to see even the vertical line or than the horizontal lines clearly, or you cannot see objects very well and look as if it's scattered. And this is because the cornea or the eye is too rough. The eye cornea is too rough. Something like this. The cornea of the eye is too rough, and therefore there will be an uneven transmission of light rays. And this is the lens now, and the cornea appears to be very, very rough. See that the corner of the eye appears to be very rough, and therefore there will be an uneven curvature on the surface of the cornea. Or it could be that the lens is actually very rough, there is not having an even curvature. The other aspect now to consider is the presbyopia. Presbyopia is an eye defect that is always experienced at old age. That means when the person gets to a very old age, what happens is that the ciliary muscle becomes weak, it lost its elasticity, and it cannot carry out the work of stretching of the lens and the adjusting of the length of the lens. And that problem can be corrected only when the person is able to put on a bifocal lens to correct both the either short sight or long sight case, or both of them. Then the other one is color blindness. This is an eye defect in which the person is not able to distinguish different colors. He cannot distinguish different colors. He cannot differentiate one color from the other. A person can be red color blind. That means they not focus on red colors. A person can also be blue color blind, can be brown color blind. So that's another aspect. The other one again is the night blindness. Night blindness is an eye defect in which a person is not able to see objects clearly in dark places or in dim area. And this is because the person is either by inheritance or the person lacks vitamin A. And for this one, the person needs to go and take, if it's caused by lack of vitamin A, the person needs to take food that is rich in vitamin A. Then in the aspect of river blindness is also called onchocerciasis. And the river blindness is caused by a filarial worm called onchocercia. And that filarial worm actually is what causes the river blindness. If the worm gets to the eye and dies in the eye, in fact it gets to the eye and multiplies in the eye, gives birth in the eye, and then if they eventually dies in the eye, what happens? It blocks the ray of light from entering, getting to the lens. The other one is cataract, and so on. So there are other eye defects to talk about, the glaucoma. But you should know quite well that when you consider the aspects of the cataract and glaucoma, there's still much more to say concerning this. Then let's come to the aspect of, having seen the different eye problems or the eye defects, we need to understand that a great care should be given to the eyeball or the mammalian eye. So we have to consider the aspect known as the care of the eye. The care of the eye. How can we care for the eye? Well, there are different ways, or there are different methods, or different things to do so we can take care of the human eye, or the mammalian eye, so it can function very well. And one of them is avoidance, avoid the attitude of exposing your eye to bright light. Too much of bright light is not too good. And then the next one again is you should desist from exposing an eye to smoke. Smoke everywhere can affect your eye, can even cause the eye to have some itching here and there. Then again, we should ensure that our eyes are not in any way being being touched here and there because we want to take off dirty things from our eyes. We should ensure that our hands are neat and well cleaned up before we can clean off dirty things from our eyes. Then again, we should avoid using reading with poor lights. Poor lights can affect the eye. And again, the next one is we should avoid straining our eyes here and there when we are looking at objects that are very far away or very near. Then another way to care for our eye is that we should ensure that we take food rich in vitamin A that will help to clear off any form of night blindness. Then another aspect of care for the eye is that we should ensure that at any time when there is any eye defect or any eye problem, we notice any pain in the eye or any problem in the eye, we should always report or send messages to go and see a doctor or the ophthalmology that will help to look at the problem and know what to do. These are specialists. Then we should, in no case should we give ourselves any personal self-treatment concerning issues of the eye problems here and there. Then another area to care for our eye is that we should avoid exposing our eyes to sharp objects that are very dangerous to the eye. There are still other ways to care for the eye. Avoidance of sharp objects is not the only one, or reading in dark areas is not the only one. There are still other areas. We can find out more other areas where in which you can care for your eye. And when you take care of your eye, you'll be glad to make use of it always, now and then. But let's not forget there are still other eye there are still other sense organs to look into. We have just finished the aspect of the eye and the care of the eye, as well as the functions of the parts of the eye. But when we come next time, we'll discuss the ear, the mammalian ear. We will consider the mammalian ear, the different parts of the mammalian ear. We will consider the external ear, the middle ear, and the inner ear. Then we will consider the ear defect. Then we will talk about the mechanism. Then remember, we will discuss vision mechanism before we talk about the ear as per division mechanism is what we should introduce that of the ear as the mammalian ear or the structure of the mammalian ear. So if you have any question to ask, if you have any issue or you want more clarification, you can send your questions through our WhatsApp and then we will give you the answers all together at the same time. That's the end of today's class. Thank you very much.